So someone asked me for advice about puppy biting when putting on a harness. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. 3 key things. Number 1, how to get your dog to like or at least tolerate the harness. Number 2, what positions you need to train to make putting the harness on easier. And number 3, how to fix the puppy biting issue. Let's get into it. Part number 1, getting your dog to like the harness. I actually don't use harnesses and I don't recommend using them, but we are helping somebody to like the harness. So I'm going to be using the life jacket, but it's basically the same thing. For a dog to like the harness or at least tolerate it, we need to train using food and not just random treats, but actual structured food training. What does it mean? That means the dog has to be hungry. No free feeding. Stop leaving food out. From now on, food only comes during training sessions. Once or twice a day, however you structure it, but no free food. Next one is low distraction environment. That means no other dogs, no neighbors, no family members, no friends, no loud noises. Just you, the dog, and the harness. Next one is charging the marker. That means click, food, which click means food. If you're not using a clicker, your marker word is yes. The dog needs to understand that yes means reward is coming. Yes. 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 Next thing is introducing the harness. Once the marker is charged, now we introduce the harness. Present the harness, click, pay. The pavement is a little hot, so we're doing this on a place board. Present the harness, click, pay. And this might be your entire first session. Next session, maybe just lightly touch the harness to the dog, click pay. Well, I'm here a little bit rushing. I'm leaving the harness, but you don't have to, you can just do this. It's all gonna depend on your dog. When the harness is presented, good things happen. And so on. Third session, depending on the dog, maybe slip part of the harness over without fastening it. Click pay. Make sure you're clicking exactly when the harness is getting on the dog. Pay for good, calm behavior, like this. And of course, if your dog is still hesitant, slow down. The harness should be a positive thing. The goal is for the dog to see the harness and think, oh, this means good things happen. And now let's talk quickly about choosing the right harness. By the way, if you're using a harness, get one that's easy to put on. If you're struggling, screwing around with straps, chasing your dog, you're making your life harder. Ideally, the dog should be able to just stand there while you slip it on. Stand. Sit. Stand. 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 And so on. Part number 2, training positions for harnessing. Now let's talk about the actual mechanics of putting the harness on. Step-by-step harnessing routine. Number 1, recall. First you call the dog and the dog needs to come and sit in front of you. Right here. Number 2 is obviously a sit. Always start with the dog in a sitting position. Number 3, head through if applicable. Slip the harness over the head. Once the head is through, cue the dog to stand so you can fasten the rest. And number 5, release command. Once the harness is on, cue OK or free to let the dog move. This is structure. Recall, sit, stand, and free. If you don't train this, you'll be chasing your dog around, wrestling with straps, and it'll be a mess. Now let's talk about part number 3, fixing the puppy biting. Now let's get into the biting issue. This should ideally be dealt with separately before the harness training, but if not, here's what you do. 2 effective methods to stop puppy biting. Number 1, pop the grape or lip rolling. The second that the bite happens, grab the head, roll their cheek inside their mouth onto their back teeth and press. You can control the intensity, but it has to be immediate, not 30 seconds later, right when the bite happens. Do it a few times and they will stop. Number 2, drown on the bite. This one is a little less aversive. Instead of pulling away, you shove the hand. They're biting deeper in their mouth. Hold their head toward it and let them realize they don't like it. I'm just gonna quickly show you guys both methods on the dog, but just not in a painful manner, so you guys can see, because sometimes it might be a little bit unclear. So you're playing. He's biting you, he's biting you. Drowning in bite right now. That's drowning on the bite. You see, he didn't like that. So now you're playing again, playing, or whatever. He's biting. Sorry, you're not playing, obviously. But we're playing. You'll find his mouth. You will do this like a crab hand, right? And you can see that's his cheeks. And you just roll them in. Right? And you can do it from one side, like that. Both methods work, but pop the grape works faster. Consistency is a key. This is not a one-time thing. Every single time the dog bites, you correct it. No exceptions. You can sometimes allow biting and sometimes correct it. That's confusing for the dog. And when training the harness separately, never ever click when the dog is biting. If you click, you're literally paying them for bad behavior. He's so hot. Conclusion and final tips. To wrap this up, step number 1, make the harness a good thing using structured foot training. Step number 2, train the recall, sit, stand, free sequence so harnessing isn't a fight. Step number 3, fix the biting first using consistent corrections. If you do all this properly, you won't have to deal with a dog that runs away from the harness or turns into a land shark every time you try to put it on. That's it. See you in the next one.